Season 3 of House of the Dragon is here, and I've decided to do something nobody has ever attempted before. I'm going to try to understand the show. So welcome, I'm Paraglitis, and I'm sure they meant something by all of this. This video won't spoil any future plot points in the show. So, I don't know if you noticed, but like every character in this episode contends with some oath they swore, or a loyalty they hold, or an order they're supposed to follow. Rhaenyra's dragon riders question their orders, Jace defies his mother and queen, Gwayne and Criston argue about their duty as knights, Alicent tries to fulfill her promise to Rhaenyra, Aegon refuses to bow for Rhaenyra, Corlys grapples with his duty to his bastard son Alyn, Tyland and Shirako Loha literally bicker about a contract, and the pact between Dragon and Rider is formed and tested. There's also a weird goat, and a guy with antlers, and the most high-octane sailing action I've ever seen on a dragon incest soap opera. We don't have all the time in the world, so let's get into it. Now, I hope you're sitting down because the opening credits tapestry sequence from Season 2 has been slightly modified. Surprisingly, even with the additional war drum introduction, it's actually the same length as the Season 2 sequence. Not much else is different, but the opening shots of thread magically weaving itself are new, as is the closing shot of a black four-legged Targaryen sigil because Ryan Condal hates me. And the floating title text of Foreboding Doom is now over a background of smoke and ash instead of leading to the throne. The characters have descended from a high-minded game of politics to the pointless destruction of war. Rhaena Targaryen puts herself through hell to claim the wild dragon Sheepsealer. Being the one kid without a dragon defined Rhaena's life, so this is the most important thing ever, basically. It was either accept her role as Rhaenyra's babysitter or risk death trying to do this. This is what she always wanted, but it doesn't exactly go the way she expected. Around 10 years ago, Aemond made a similar gamble for Vhagar, and that gamble also led to one of Rhaenyra's sons dying because a dragon couldn't be controlled. Rhaena prefers her meat medium rare, but hey, you take what you can get. Sheepsealer is honestly quite rude at first, but they eventually get along, and Rhaena heads home to Dragonstone. Surely Rhaenyra would be furious at Rhaena for abandoning her duty, but maybe her brave acquisition of a new dragon could make up for that. Prince Aemond has been striving to emulate his uncle Daemon ever since he learnt that you actually can get away with decapitating people in the throne room so long as you have sufficient aura. Aemond remembers Daemon's first scene in Season 1, so he sits on the Iron Throne and has a little tension-filled chat with a family member that he has the hots for. And it seems like Aemond has watched Season 2 as well, because he's figured out that Daemon wants to fuck his own mum. So he's taken that leaf out of the book too. The book in question is actually a play, Oedipus Rex, and Aemond has jumped the gun a little by already having lost an eye before having sex with Olivia Cook. But what the hell is going on? Alicent returns to King's Landing only to find that the terms she and Rhaenyra agreed on are already not going to happen. She told Rhaenyra that Aemond and Vhagar would be gone from the city and that Aegon would be there, and that's all backwards now. Aegon has fled and Aemond and Vhagar are here. After so many broken promises between them, Alicent does everything she can to uphold her oath to Rhaenyra. Helaena tells Alicent that Aemond is afraid, because last episode Helaena told Aemond about his death. So Alicent manipulates Aemond into going to Harrenhal, playing off his ego and his emotions, knowing that deep down he's a mummy's boy. She probably didn't realize exactly what kind of a mummy's boy he is though, but we know from his relationship with Sylvie that Aemond has a thing for MILFs. Alicent is playing with fire and she knows it. She's terrified of her son, another man who sees her as a sexual object in spite of all the power she's wielded. And what will Aemond do if Alicent rejects him? Alicent blames herself for Aegon's failings.
It is my fault. We're in this position. I strove tirelessly to put Aegon on the throne, but I failed to prepare him to rule.
So, does she blame herself for this side of Aemond, too? Alicent also aids Rhaenyra by sending a letter to the Hightower army delaying their arrival at the theatre of war. But she signs the letter as King Aemond. Aemond said that Aegon has abdicated, so he's assuming the kingship. But this is a forgery, so Alicent is committing treason in her son's eyes. Alicent is still playing the political games her father taught her, only now she does it in the service of securing freedom for herself, her daughter, and her granddaughter, rather than power for the violent men in her family. A new character just dropped, Ormund Hightower. He's the son of Hobart Hightower, who we met in Season 1 and is now completely dead, and as you can see through this extremely helpful diagram, which took like 3 whole minutes to make, he's Otto's nephew and Alicent and Gwayne's cousin. Ormund is the Lord of Old Town, the richest and second largest city in Westeros, and he's leading an army through the Reach to help Aemond conquer the Riverlands. Ormund may be a bit of a prick, but at least he treats messengers better than Daemon, even the stinky ones. Ormund appears to be obsessed with order and cleanliness. Just look at the state of his camp compared to Daemon's army, and watch him have a good sniff of his little orb to get this guy's pungent aroma out of his head. I don't know what's in there, but my bet's on amyl nitrite. Anyway, Ormund receives Alicent's forged letter pretending to be from Aemond, and I receive Tessarion, the dragon of Alicent's youngest son, Prince Daeron, who isn't in this scene, except maybe he is. In the books, Daeron is Ormund's squire, and this kid appears to be Ormund's squire, so this might be Daeron. Daemon and the River Lords defeat the army of the West. Oscar Tully, the young Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, insists on burying the dead instead of having the dragon Caraxes burn them. In Season 2, Daemon had to learn that these rivermen are committed to their unique cultural practices, and to command them, he has to work with that. In Season 2, Prince Jace got the Lord of Winterfell Cregan Stark to send an army of old men to fight for Rhaenyra. These seasoned greybeards are the Winter Wolves, and they're led by Roderick Dustin, Roddy the Ruin. Roddy produces the head of Jason Lannister. Jason was the Warden of the West and Lord of Casterly Rock, and he's Tywin Lannister's twin brother, played by the same actor. This battle is a truncation of a few different engagements from the book. This appears to be mostly the battle at the Red Fork, but in the books, Jason Lannister actually wins that battle, though Jason himself still does die in the battle, and the Winter Wolves aren't there. Instead, the Winter Wolves show up a little bit later, and Daemon isn't actually present for any of these battles. Now, if you look closely at this scene, you'll see Black Aly, a cool tomboy archer from House Blackwood, and if you look even closelier at this scene, you'll see Caraxes! Look at him! I love him! Near Harrenhal, Rhaenyra's new dragon riders, the Dragonseeds Adam, Hugh, and Ulf, are waiting to ambush Aemond. Ulf is annoyed that Aemond and Vhagar haven't shown up yet, so he wants to leave, and being jump-scared by a demonic goat and a nonchalant witch really sets him off. It's unclear why exactly Alice Rivers tells the Dragonseeds to leave, but her actions last season did ultimately get Daemon back on Rhaenyra's side with an army of rivermen, so maybe Alice is Team Black. But characters like Alice are rarely so straightforward. This does also benefit Aemond by making his future conquest of Harrenhal safer. Alice might want to fuckle around in Aemond's head, just like she did with Daemon. Hugh and Adam spot an antler guy. This is one of the mysterious Green Men, an order of satyr-like dudes who protect the sacred weirwoods on the Isle of Faces. The Isle of Faces is where the ancient First Men signed the pact with the Children of the Forest, ending their centuries of war. In the last 150 years, though, humans have been tearing down the weirwoods around the Isle of Faces, and dragons have been showing up in the area and burning castles. How do the Green Men feel about this? Does it in some way violate the pact between humans and the Children of the Forest? Like Alice, it's unclear why Mr. Tumnus is here when his special island is over there. Alice and the Green Men, and most importantly, Del the Goat, might all represent the same magical presence, and this is their way of responding to the Dragon Lords interloping on their land. Ulf talks about his backstory. He was once a gutter rat from Flea Bottom living through hell, but now he's a dragon rider. As a kid, a red priest groomed Ulf by telling him he had dragon blood, king's blood. Ulf believed this because it made him feel special. Maybe the entire notion of special blood is a story the Targaryens choose to believe to make them feel special. Ulf wonders how much he's going to get out of his loyalty to Rhaenyra. Maybe there's a better deal out there for him.
Get more women with a castle.
King Aegon and Larys Strong are secretly travelling through the Crown Lands. Larys forgot to bring any milk of the poppy for Aegon, because he's a dick. They get stopped by some Staunton men who make them kneel for Rhaenyra. But Aegon, the sociopathic rapist who bets on underground child fighting rings, can't bring himself to lie, to dishonour himself, and he refuses. So the Stauntons are going to kill them, but Larys tells them who they are, so they're kept alive as hostages to be taken to Rhaenyra. In Criston Cole's army, Gwayne Hightower sees one of their soldiers rape a local girl and insists that Criston prevent more harm by sending a message to their men. When we met Gwayne, he was a cynical, fancy lad, but after witnessing the horrors of war, he resolved to take knighthood seriously, to be good.
We are not beasts, but knights and soldiers of honor.
On the other hand, Sir Criston is fully doomer-pilled.
We'll all become beasts before our end.
The brutality of dragon war having stripped him of whatever humanity he had left. He can no longer even convince himself of his fabricated respect for women.
Every woman is an image of the mother, to be spoken of with reverence.
Something must be done.
Hang him then, if you wish.
His white cloak has evaporated.
True honor is a mist that melts in the morning.
But Gwayne rages against the dying of Criston's light.
Only if we abandon our principles.
In the captain's cabin of the Queen Who Never Was, Lord Corlys Alyn shares a drink with his bastard son, Alyn. He admits responsibility for the rift between them, but says he tried to provide for Alyn and Adam. But Alyn says Corlys never gave them a name. Corlys's guiding philosophy for decades has been,
history does not remember blood. It remembers names.
But before they can make up and go play catch on the deck, the alarms ring. Rhaenyra tells her council that she's made a deal with Alicent, and none of them are really into it. Alicent was Rhaenyra's best friend as a kid, but Jace only knows Alicent as the woman who was married to his dying grandfather, hates his mother, and tried to cut out his little brother's eye that one time. Of course he doesn't trust Alicent. So when word arrives that the Triarchy is attacking Corlys's fleet and Rhaenyra wants to join the battle, Jace thinks it's part of Alicent's trap and doesn't want his mum to die, so in a classic maneuver, he short-circuits the Kingsguard Laurent Marbrand by pitting his vows against one another.
I could not defy Her Grace's commands.
You swore to protect Her Grace from all threats.
All the way back in Season 1, Daemon showed Jace how to control the Kingsguard with force. Rhaenyra's political position is at odds with what society expects of her gender. Leaders are expected to be masculine and violent. Even Viserys was less respected because he was peaceable, but someone like Shirako Lohar can be a respected leader by assuming those traits. So when Tywin Lannister questions Lohar's decisions, her men follow her lead and throw Tywin's men overboard. But when Jace questions Rhaenyra's decisions, her men leave her locked in a bedroom. Rhaenyra laments this by quoting Elizabeth I.
I may appear to have the weak and feeble body of a woman, but I possess the heart and spirit of a king.
Maybe the happiest we ever saw Rhaenyra was when she was mistaken for a boy on the night she discovered her bodily and sexual autonomy.
He called me boy.
To Rhaenyra, masculinity is freedom. It is access to power. Like his mother, Jace is convinced that he's the main character of the universe and wants to prove himself as a masculine, legitimate leader by winning the battle he thought was a trap. He brings Baelor with him, who seems concerned for her betrothed. So yeah, there's a big battle in this episode. The Triarchy advance on the Velaryon blockade. There's a lot of cool fantasy, accurate naval warfare stuff, and it's a sick-ass battle sequence, but I'm gonna focus on the characters within the sequence. Tywin Lannister thinks that they're here to free King's Landing from the Velaryon blockade, but the Triarchy captain Shirako Lohar is more concerned with vengeance on the Sea Snake, Corlys, whose political advancement has been personal to her.
The Sea Snake led the persecution and slaughter of my mates for more than 20 years. I sealed your contract for him.
All those awesome things Corlys has done came at great cost to real humans in this fictional story. Like Rhaenyra and Jace, Lohar is the main character of her story, and Corlys is the great villain. Tywin says some fucked shit about the geography of the Gullet that I could pretend to understand, but there's no time for any of that. But the point is, Corlys uses the personal enmity between himself and Lohar to lure her into a dangerous pass called the Teeth, wherever that is, personally helming his ship to finesse through his local waters. But Corlys underestimates Lohar, who ruthlessly throws anything heavy overboard, including Tywin and his men, and loses entire ships to the pass just to pursue rescue Corlys. She sends a portion of her fleet to burn Corlys's home, High Tide, the monument to his legacy, just to hurt him. Lohar's ship, the Bitch Fist, rams and destroys Corlys's ship, the Queen Who Never Was, which he named after his dead wife, Rhaenys. Baelor previously said that Corlys built High Tide for Rhaenys. Lohar is destroying all the testaments of Corlys's love and legacy. Corlys falls into the sea, having lost everything. But Alyn finally calls him father. Lohar also shoots a dragon. Jace and Baelor show up on their dragons Vermax and Moondancer, and the Triarchy fights back against them with ballistae. Lohar hits Vermax, but Moondancer is able to save him. Rhaena is almost home on her new, mostly wild dragon Sheepstealer, but sees her grandfather's fleet burning and decides to help. But Rhaena doesn't have enough gym badges to command a high-level dragon like Sheepstealer, so to Rhaena's horror, Sheepstealer burns the ships indiscriminately. Thinking that Sheepstealer is an enemy dragon, Baelor tries to fight him. Rhaena recognizes Moondancer, but Baelor doesn't know that her sister is Sheepstealer's rider. Sheepstealer is older and larger than Moondancer, so Baelor flees to regroup, leaving Jace alone. Jace and Vermax almost kill Rhaena, but Jace realizes that that's his cousin slash stepsister slash future sister-in-law slash cousin once removed slash there's somehow even more, and he stops. Another grapnel hits Vermax, and this time, Moondancer can't help. As Sheepstealer flees the battle, Rhaena looks back, desperate to help, but she can't control her dragon. Her power is not within her control. Vermax falls into the sea, and Jace has to abandon his dragon to fight for his own life. He finds a piece of driftwood, searches for safety, and an arrow takes him in the neck. Jace dies unceremoniously and tragically at sea for nothing. The Triarchy pirates cheer as the Prince of Dragonstone dies. Alyn kills Lohar, which in Pride Month is a bad look for him. Alyn just made so many widows. Maybe he's thinking about that as he takes in the carnage of the battlefield. Battle Estuary? This episode is, in a lot of ways, episode 9 of season 2. I'm making a video about understanding season 2 once I can figure it out, so subscribe to catch that when it comes out. In the meantime, you can watch my understanding season 1 video now, and Dragon Time with Swift and Glidus is back, so you can watch our season 3 episode 1 video, which is 5 hours long in its full entire glory up on Nebula. You can sign up to Nebula for as little as $2.50 a month to access everything we do, as well as a whole host of other creators' premium content. Use nebula.tv/Glidus. Alright, I'm done, so unless one of you guys wants to say something, we can wrap this up.